All right.
Welcome back, WNST, Tassel, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively into the holiday season, and, the best part of the holidays is seeing friends. Old friends, new friends, guys that, at some point lived downstairs or upstairs. You took pictures with Eddie Van Halen back in the day. Dude, it's been a little while, and I can now say not just brother of Mike Mussina, but celebrated author of A Mile in Her Shoes. Mark Mussina joins us from the farm up in Montoursville, Williamsport, home of the Little League World Series. And first things first, man, happy holidays to you. How is the plague doing in your neck of the woods these days, huh?
The plague has actually gotten a lot worse now. We, because we're out in the middle of nowhere, it was kind of like a rumor for a long time. And now I think they said in the month of November, our county has doubled. Since from March until November 1st, we had, however many cases, and it has now doubled since that from November 1st until today. So it has really got here now with a vengeance. And our issue is people were so, like, it was a TV show to them. They saw people talking about it on the news, but they didn't know anyone that had it. And now it's really got here, and people are the adjustments that you people have made and the big city people have made. A lot of people here never made them, and now they're being forced to, and it's an interesting time, to say the least.
Well, I can only imagine, and, it's all predicated on what news channel you watch at this point and who you trust and where you're going and all that. Just navigating life this far in and watching how it's affected sports, brother, right? Like, sports has been my life. I'm here wearing Baltimore Positive stuff now. Shout out to Liberty Pure and Doug Workman as well on the hat. But you knew me when sports and rock and roll and girls and fun and Dundalk and 30 years ago, and your brother pitching, and the Orioles were the only game in town and the biggest game and all of that. Just all these years into it, I'm watching how sports is being led, right? Like, much like our country being led by the money, right? I mean, sort of the soul of it all gone. The National Football League sanctioned a game on Sunday without a quarterback. And just move on. They sanctioned the game where essentially the Ravens had half the team bus go into a ditch. 20 guys got sick with a plague, literally. Two of them, Calais Campbell and Mark Andrews, have pre-existing conditions. And yeah, they could opt out. They're there to make the money. I get it. And they sanctioned the game on a Wednesday afternoon, moving it 4 times. They had dirty tests before the plane took off for Pittsburgh. This has not been a grand time for sports in that way. And Moose, I've used the Eddie Feiner reference, which is an ode to your brother's sport and, softball and, the king in his court coming through town, that I felt like the baseball season was an exhibition season. It was a tournament. I certainly felt like hockey and basketball, just the way the whole thing was set up, felt and looked like a tournament. The NFL was the one thing that still had integrity 2 weeks ago before the virus came along, where it was like, they're having a real season. I mean, it looks like a real season. We moved a few things, the knuckleheads down to Tennessee. Even the Dolphins got good. You know what I mean? Like, so all of these things are happening, and now they hit this point where they have that Y on the road with integrity, where they really have taken the Eddie Feiner thing, and all of a sudden it's becoming a lot less like a season and more like a series of games that they have to get in for television.
Well, yeah, they can. And at the end of when it all comes to pass, I'm sure the owners were briefed, I guess, before the beginning of the season, and there's like, listen, you're Green Bay, you may lose Aaron Rodgers. If he tests positive, he can't play. And it kind of everyone knew that the season was going to be very fluid and from week to week. And I think the fact, yeah, they didn't want to move the game that many times. They didn't want to play it in the afternoon. But if you would have told the NFL that we've got to December and we haven't missed any games yet, I think they're going to take it. And they know at the end of the season, if they can have something that looks like a playoff system and ends up with a Super Bowl, they're going to be happy with it. Now, I'm sure that part of the Denver situation is because Denver's not very good. And like right now, if it's Kansas City, the NFL may handle it differently. But at the end of the day, they may not, because right now they don't really care about week 11 or week 12. They care about the Super Bowl, and they need to get there.
Well, it feels like they don't care about
did.
player safety. It feels like they don't care about integrity. It feels like they don't care about fairness. I mean, all of these sort of hallmark parts of their brand, right? I mean, like literally, we're getting at the heart of what their brand is. And I'll take you on the baseball journey. We're certainly going to talk about your incredible book here and your family life up on the farm. But for sports right now, in this time where can we sell tickets? Will anybody want tickets? Will anybody come? Will there be a shot? Will they wear a mask? Are we going to have a 162-game season? That's just a baseball question. And then there's the whole thing you and I get together as old guys and bitch about, which is if the left fielder is going to move the right fielder and the shortstop's going to move to second base, and we're going to play every game as a pitcher's handout, and everything's either going to be a pop-up, a strikeout, or a home run, and the games are going to take 4 hours, and we're going to have starting pitchers not start. We're just all of it, dogs and cats, no minor league. I mean, all of that they're going to shovel that into the plague. There's going to come this point they're going to come out of the plague. I mean, we're in the last year of a deal here with Camden Yards, Moose, right? Like this is their last year of their lease, right? I would say to you that baseball has an existential crisis of its own. And I don't know how and the NBA and the NHL are going to ramp back up, or people coming back. They're indoor sports, getting people together, the way those leagues make money. Not the NBA, but the NHL for sure making money. And football, they haven't finished their season yet. Baseball, the other sports finished. They got to the finish line. Man, football's sort of teetering, and what they're going to look like when they get to the finish line, I'm a little concerned for that because it doesn't feel that far off, and it feels like they really don't care about their product at all. And I've seen what that's done to baseball.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say they don't care about their product, but, because America has kind of shown that something is better than nothing as you look at Big Ten football and as you look at Pac-12 football, that they took what would be the integritous route and said, we're not playing. Then they saw everyone else playing, and then they're like, okay, maybe we should play too. So I think if you ask society, even though they're happy that they have it on Sunday afternoon as opposed to nothing.
Moose, I'm having some Wi-Fi with you there. Mark Mussina joining us here. A mile in her shoes. You've done screenplays, had a movie made. I always talk to you about the Dallas Cowboys, and it is funny how this week, that's how this worked out. But you sent me the book a couple weeks ago, and I got to get the whole story and give a little bit of your story. I mean, I make jokes about, you being the teetotaler in my house for the better part of a year and us being semi-roommates and you doing radio and you moving back and getting married and having kids and your brother going on and doing all the incredible things he's done. But I don't know that people have caught up with what you've been doing. And, I know you've taken a turn in a career thing, and this book is a product of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere along the line, I started writing stories, and it's kind of something I wanted to do as a teenager. And as you mentioned earlier, I wrote a screenplay, 10 years ago, maybe, that got made into a kind of a direct-to-video movie that starred Mina Suvari and starred Kenan Thompson from Saturday Night Live. And I just kept writing screenplays because I thought that's what I was good at. And then in reality, I just finished this book, and the book was a screenplay. And I know when people read it, they said it kind of feels like a movie. And I was just about getting done when COVID hit, and I didn't have anything else to do. And I thought, it's really, really hard to get someone to buy in to make like when you write a screenplay on spec, after that, you hope someone likes it and someone wants to make it. And obviously that's quite a chore, especially living in central Pennsylvania. So I said, first of all, I have nothing else to do. And at least if I write a book, I can self-publish publish it, I don't even have to worry about publishers. I have something that's done, and I can hand it to people, and I can hand it to my friends, and they can read it and, judge it for whatever it is. So kind of the COVID shutdown of the world is the only reason I turned it into a book.
The book is A Mile in Her Shoes. You can find Mark out at MussinaBooks.com as well. Give me a little primer on the book here, man. I kid around with you as a guy that ate a lot of pizza and a lot of McDonald's back in the day. We had a lot of fun.
I was at McDonald's today, buddy. That's where lunch was.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I know. When you live in a big town, that's where you go, And so I remember the simplicity in you. And yet I know you now as this parent and coach and brother to the big brother and husband, all of these things that you've become. But that's, I guess, which allows you at 50 to write a book like this, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of life experience in it. And as I go through, I couldn't have written it at 25. But I mean,
I knew you were 25.
Story,
you're right.
Like the quick story, and this is, I guess, if you ask, any author, whether you're an artist or a musician or, where do you get the inspiration for your songs? I was riding the exercise bike on a Sunday morning, and I was watching ESPN, and they did a short about a kid who was a basketball manager he had autism. And I'm a bunch of you have probably seen it. It's made the rounds on the internet. He was a manager. He was very athletic, but he was kind of, as they say, too far down the autism scale to actually be able to compete in the basketball games. So on the last game of the season, the coach tells the other coach, and they're going to dress this kid on senior night, and he's going to get to play in his last game. So he goes out, and in the last 4 minutes, his team keeps feeding him the ball, and the other team lets him shoot. And the numbers were something like, in the last 4 minutes of the game, he shot 11 times and made 6 3-pointers. And it was you could see the student section going nuts. It was and as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, boy, that would be great to kind of turn into a movie. But if you have someone who's kind of that far down on the spectrum, they can't play you couldn't make it believable if they were in a basketball game or a baseball game or a football game or a soccer game or a hockey game or a lacrosse or anything like that. But I thought, what if you had a kid that was pretty far down the spectrum but could just really, really run? And the day before, I'd been at the district track meet. My daughter had qualified in the high jump. And the week before that, I'd been at the league track meet. And if you've ever been to these track meets, they take all day. So, I had track and field, even though I'm a baseball guy, I had track and field on my mind. But that was basically the thought. Like, why couldn't, almost a Forrest Gump-ish. Like, what if this kid could just really, really run? And that's where I went with it.
Mark Mussina is here. The book is A Mile in Her Shoes. It's interesting you would mention Forrest Gump because that was the first thing I thought of. And, I think we've seen so many occasions in social media now where videos go out where football, different sports that are sort of, make-a-wish kind of, ideas, but to make it realistic and to write it as a script. Do you want to get it made into a movie?
Very much so, yes. And that's one of the beauties. I saw this in another movie. I think it was maybe it was a Little Women. One of the things, I didn't even look for a publisher. Now maybe down the road I'll try to find one, and it's just I wanted to get it done, to get it out, so people so my friends basically could read it and say, hey, I think it's pretty good. But in doing that, because I self-published, I still own the movie rights. So anybody that comes along, I would love to have it made into a movie. Some people say it feels like a Lifetime movie, like a feel-good. On the back, I have
ABC After School Special?
Something like that, yes. So, I mean, obviously you could dramatize it and make it bigger, but I would love to see it on the big screen. I think it is. I think it's a big screen story.
Mark, you and I get together over sports, and we've done this for a long, long time. Your Cowboys fandom, sort of legendary, along with Dave Muir and a couple other people in my life. I grew up in Baltimore. We had a team, and I was always an Oiler fan, and you knew that. You knew me as an Oiler fan. You knew me when we knew each other. There were no Ravens, quite frankly. So the Oilers were my love and my team. So you could probably comment on that. All these years later, the one thing that I see for you from afar, and I don't know this to be true because I don't really know you anymore, is that you still love sports and you still love the Cowboys as much as you ever loved the Cowboys. I don't know at 52 whether it's going to be the rest of my life or not. You know what I mean? Like I obviously with what I've done with my life and going to Baltimore Positive, where it doesn't feel like it means as much to me. It doesn't feel like it means as much to others. It doesn't feel like my wisdom or my knowledge or my historical perspective has the same weight or impact on younger people who don't care. Some little Yankee boy's not really going to care all that much about your brother. You know what I mean? And if they love baseball, they might, and they might know from Babe Ruth through Mickey Mantle, through your brother, through whatever. But I thought it would always be that way because geeks like you and me would sit up all night eating pizza talking about who got screwed on the All-Star game. I don't know that the sports needs those conversations, and they need to have it. But I think the political awakening and the awakening of truth and knowledge and the internet has opened up so many channels of what people are going to focus on the next 10, 15, 20 years in our country. And I think sports is great. And it's wonderful. I think it's gotten expensive. And I think once the time comes back, this whole thing where we gather, right, that it feels to me like you still love the Cowboys more than you'd love to go see a Tesla concert or a Def Leppard concert. I've moved on that to like where I like going to concerts much more than going to a game. Like I miss now that everything's been taken away, I think I miss the music the most.
That's fair. That's a good argument. And you also, Def Leppard and Tesla, you don't know how many more times they're gone out. So there's kind of that urgency that this.
You feel like the Yankees are going to play again 5 years from now with another player, right?
Yeah, but there's like I tell you, as I've grown, and one of the things that has changed my perspective on sports entirely is like watching my brother go through the ranks that he did, and then coming back to Little League with these kids, and you see dads losing their mind because the second baseman just made an error, and I would sit there and think like, I've seen Roberto Alomar make errors, and he played on fields that were groomed like your living room carpet. And this kid's on where there's as much rocks as there are dirt, and he's 11 years old. And just the aspect of the emotional overload that comes from so many parents around youth sports. And
your brother wasn't that way, right? Like your brother was not stage managed in that, and your brother was really special, right? But it was different in 1987, right? It just was.
It was very different. And so that's really like I've come to enjoy. I enjoy watching my kid play. I appreciate the camaraderie of sports and what sports brings. But the life and death, as you know, with everything in life, like we're curious to see what happens today, and then whatever happens today, whether it be business-wise, whether it be recreationally, whether it be politically, whatever. Now we wake up tomorrow and we figure out how to deal with it. And that is like today, there's nothing that at a Little League field or at work or whatever that's life or death today, probably, unless it's a health issue and it really is life or death. And, just the ability to kind of ride with it and roll with it. And I have gotten that when the Cowboys lost, it was as the Ravens were a little bit upset with the officiating against the Steelers. When the Cowboys played the Steelers, we were upset with the officiating too. But now at 49 years old, I laugh it off as opposed to it keeping me up for 3 days and affecting the rest of my life. So, I just think perspectives on lots of things change as we get older.
But I don't know how many people still feel that way about sports. And I think
like it is when we were 12 years old, and
you're loving it that much. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what led you in.
Right. And I'll tell you one of the things. No, I agree. And I think just having teenagers myself, I think a lot of it's attention span. They have so many things to watch, and they have so many TikToks to watch. We used to sit and watch a 3-hour game, whether it be football or baseball, and be glued. And they don't do anything for 3 hours and be glued. Or they're playing a game and watching something. My kid does that all the time. He's playing a video game while watching something on his iPad. And the generation that's growing up now has certainly been raised differently because of technology. And what the long-term effect is on professional sports will certainly be interesting.
How about them Cowboys?
Well, in our defense, we got a lot of injuries. But, it is what it is.
I had half my team out this week with the plague. Cry me a river, brother.
Well, yeah, listen, I wish we were in a division that had 2 teams from the state of Ohio. Because when you talk about the greatness of the Ravens and the greatness of the Steelers, the best thing that happened to those 2 teams is the state of Ohio. Now, I know Cleveland's pretty good this year, but historically, they've really helped you guys stay at the top of the division.
Well, we appreciate that. I mean, all charity and touche to your brother that the Orioles help keep the Yankees and the Red Sox atop the division too. So, hey, man, it's always great to visit with you. Your Wi-Fi's been a little wonky, so I will bid you adieu. We'll put it all together. Hopefully at some point we get a shot in the arm or in the ass, wherever it's going to be, and take the masks off. And I meet you somewhere in Hershey halfway at, I don't know, some Pat Benatar get-together. I don't know, something that would bring us together. I don't know what that would be when all this is over with, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to go see a show myself. And unfortunately, what I think is going to happen is, I say unfortunately, every band in the world is going to go out if it is this summer, and we're not going to be able to catch them all because logistically it's going to be impossible. So there was a good crop last summer. I was ready for last summer. There was a good section of shows going out, and now we're going to have to select, and we're not going to be able to see all the ones we want to see. That's what I'm afraid of.
When you were crashed out eating pizza on my couch over on Kane Street with the pink walls back in the early 90s, if I would have thought that I would have called you in the summer of 2019 and said, Kiss is playing Hershey Stadium. Tickets are $5. Come on, dude. It's a beautiful night. Meet us there. That you wouldn't say, I got a Little League game, dude. I can't make it, And then, so my wife had never seen Kiss. I may have told you this because we visit a couple times a year.
I think you did, but I'll hear it
But we
again.
went, and they lip-synced the whole show, right? I mean, it's just – Paul can barely move, and I love Paul. Paul was so kind to me. Paul was a good dude, and we had, it was all good, but it really was a Broadway staging. It's kind of like the other morning. What morning was it? Like Monday morning, Tuesday morning. My wife's watching the morning concert series, and it's on the stage in New York. It's the NBC show, whatever. And who's it? Is it Megan Trainor? I don't want to get the name wrong. They put it on. She's dancing around, and lips are going one way, kind of like this Skype we're doing right now. Lips are moving one way and moving the other way, and it's so clearly, awfully sort of lip synced. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're a modern musician, you're a musician, and then in order to be on anything, you have to learn how to lip sync, and it's no longer a concert series; it's performers. That's the new word. So when you're lip syncing, so Kiss performed. It wasn't a concert per se, because but they performed. So for $5 to see Gene Simmons beat on the bass and spit blood and fire, over the Hershey High School, it was a beautiful night. You really missed out for $5. It was good value, Moose.
Well, I'll tell you, whenever I see that Kiss is going out again, I always show my kids. And I say, this is fake news, because I saw Kiss on their farewell tour in 1996. So there's no way they can be going out again, because I have the ticket stub. So I'll tell you, I think, I saw Guns at Hershey. That may not be the last time I was at Hershey. I saw Guns N' Roses. They put on a 3-hour show, and that was like the time that it hit me how good Slash is. Because of the 3 hours, I'll bet an hour of it was a Slash guitar solo on and off and on and off. And so on the flip side of that, I don't remember how Axl sound. I thought the show was fun, but you know, we're old enough. We can go see Tesla in some shed with 750 people, and it's awesome.
It's
so
the best,
there
man.
is a beauty to that.
Bring back some music, man. Just bring me back some tunes. Get me out with a beer in my hand and some Open Sky and a Merriweather over Pier 6. I miss it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to go to a baseball game at some point with you if you ever call me when you come to Baltimore. But, you know, all things being equal, I need music right now more than I need the rest of it. And I do hope that sports gets well soon. But I don't feel like that's my job anymore. You know what I mean? Like, they threw me out 15 years ago. Let them go sell their own baseball tickets. Let them go sell their own interest, because at the point where people like me aren't interested, the problem's on them, not on me anymore. And from the baseball perspective here, you know, I'm concerned, Moose. I'm concerned. Long term.
You know, and I agree with it. I think there's a lot of economics if you get down to the lower levels, which, you know, I'm certainly at with these kids. Travel leagues have certainly changed our society, where, you know, when you were a kid, you know, everybody in Dundalk wanted to play Little League, played Little League. And if you had all-stars, you had all-stars, but if not, now they have these travel leagues where they or these travel teams where they go hand-pick the best kids in the league. And if you are not, you know, the best 12 or 13 in your age group, or your parents aren't friends with the right people, there are some kids getting left out. And as people immediately think about it from a developmental age, like it's going to hurt, you know, high school programs and college programs, and some kids are going to get cheated out of careers. But from a fan standpoint, if you take a kid who at 12 years old or 13 years old doesn't really have a team to play on anymore, it's certainly going to take, you know, his or her love of the game, for whatever game that is, whether it's travel baseball, travel soccer, travel basketball, you know, whatever. So those things are going to be, I know as parents think I'm helping my kid by getting him or her against the best competition, and, you know, they're headed towards the beloved college scholarship. The question on the other side is, what are we doing to a fan base, as we used to have a league of 50 kids and now we've cut it down to 15. So you bring up very valid points, and as we move forward, you know, when we're 70 years old having this conversation, it's going to be interesting to see what the professional sports world does over the next 20 years.
Well, I hope we're still both here 20 years from now. Mark Mussina, you can find him under a rock up in Montoursville, coaching basketball and things with a mask on. A Mile in Her Shoes is his book. This is a novel by Moose. You can find it out at Mussina Books. A unique twist on the classic underdog. It's high school track meets Rocky or Rudy, a track story. And the best part is, he signed it. I hope it becomes Titanic and the greatest story in the world and makes millions of dollars. And I'll get $100 on eBay for this, like a Springsteen book or something. Hey, dude, I miss you.
It's on Amazon too.
Oh, Amazon. Thank you very much.
It's on Amazon too, and it's you can get the ebook. You can get it in paperback or ebook through Amazon.
You reading it out loud or no?
No, not yet. I've had that asked of me. I've been through it so many times, I have a lot of it memorized, so I don't know. We'll cross that bridge down the road.
You can perform it on a stage off Broadway. I know a musician named Springsteen that did that.
He did all right. What do you think of his new album? You got it?
You know what the craziest thing is? I'm going to be really honest with you, because I'm getting to the end of my work week here, and it's been a crazy week, you know, with the game moving around and all that. I have it on the computer that I'm broadcasting on in my iTunes. It's the only place it exists. And it's been in there, and I've been doing so much editing and building Baltimore Positive and all the videos and audio that every time something automates in my Apple iTunes, a song comes on. And I hear the sort of country wistful guitar of all of it. And I've heard segments of songs, but I'm not even being facetious or being a smartass. I have been working like a dog at 4 a.m, and one of my companions has been finding Springsteen and Van Halen concerts, okay? And Steely Dan and Hall & Oates, just stuff I've been listening to that have been concerts I've never heard from eras and song. I watched the Hall & Oates thing that they did in the Bahamas, where they did nothing They did Man-Eater at the end, but they did nothing but the Motown stuff for like 18 songs. It was a whole concert, and I'd never seen that. And we were watching like live from Daryl's house or whatever. But I've been doing that, and I've been really into the Springsteen catalog, moving back. But I know it's there, and I'm going to unpeel it. I think my wife's leaving next week to go away and for a couple weeks for the holidays with her family. I'll probably just crank it up and get real familiar with it. My best, most intimate Springsteen friends tell me that this is going to be the tunnel of love for this point in my life. So I'm really looking forward to it. The reviews have been great. I haven't seen the movie because I don't have the iTunes Apple thing. But I'm sort of saving it. Does that make any sense to you? Like that I'm going to pull it out when I'm really ready for it. And it's coming soon. It's coming down the track. It is. But I'm going to immerse in it because I want to fall in love with it, but I'm not ready for it. It's like the date. I'm not ready to go on that date yet. Right now.
Well, I tell you, and I did a Facebook post about it. I don't know if you saw it. I was in Walmart, and I knew both Bruce and Bon Jovi had albums coming out in October. And it's hard to find CDs anymore, but they were both there in that one little kiosk in Walmart, and I bought them both. I think they're both really, really good. I was pleasantly surprised, as we're in, with these guys when they've had greatest hits and multiple greatest hits and live albums, and that kind of everything new just gets pushed. And we almost don't even need anything new because we have so much old stuff that we love. But you'll like it. You'll like them both. I don't know if you get Bon Jovi and Bruce's. They are both. I was really, really pleased.
Did your brother ever play golf with Eddie Van Halen?
No. Do you have time for that story, or do you want to go?
No, man, I got time. The reason I'm asking you is we're famously in this Van Halen picture together. That I sort of put that together, but I had interviewed Alex before, and Amanda Julian was a huge part of that, and your brother and Brad Pennington, my pal John Raffaellis. But we're in this picture, and since Eddie died, I'm being honest, dude. I haven't been most anywhere. I don't go out much, but when I've gone out, people have seen me. They want to talk to me about Eddie Van Halen. They asked me the story. So what's your story about that night? Tell me what you remember.
Here's the quick story. So, I remember this too, and I say this, we all love Eddie. We know Eddie had, his issues through life. I remember waiting backstage, and of course, as a fit, everyone wants to meet Eddie Van Halen, and not that Sammy Hagar isn't great, Michael Anthony's not great, and Alex, but I remember Alex Van Halen came in with ice on his wrist. So he and Mike had a long conversation about icing arms, and because Van Halen doesn't have, personal trainers and team doctors, and he was so they were going through arm maintenance because Alex had tendonitis in one of his wrists. And I remember we were like an hour, and there was points where we're waiting, and we're wondering if Eddie's even going to show up after the show. And he finally comes back in, and Eddie was feeling very, very good, to the point of I was wondering how he played. But he went through, he hugged everybody.
He was just a little high. He was just a little high. I mean, he was. He was a little high.
A little. Well,
he was stoned. He wasn't, he was just a little stoned. I mean, yeah, okay, so go ahead.
All right. Our definitions of a little might be off, but I get it. But so he comes through, and he hugs everybody in the room, and he's talking to Mike, and he says.
By the way, I hope you tell this story the way I remember, because I told my wife this story. Is it after with the baseball?
Oh no, I don't remember baseball.
Go ahead.
I remember him telling Mike. He's like, he told Mike, he's like, I don't know baseball, I know football. Do you play the Dodgers? And Mike said, no, we don't play the Dodgers. We play the Angels. And he said, oh, okay, that's fine. And he's like, I'll give you my number. When you come to California, call me. So the way it worked out in the schedule, I assume it was later that summer, because this would have been the summer of '93. And I assume it was later that summer, but I'm not positive. But they had an afternoon game in Seattle. Then they flew to Anaheim. They were off Monday, and they played Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So they get into Anaheim, and this is back in the days when the players had roommates. They didn't have the new bargaining agreement that they had individual rooms. So Mike's roommate was Todd Froworth back in those days.
The late, great Fro Dog.
the late great who have you ever met anyone that didn't like Todd Froworth?
Todd Froworth was the best.
What a wonderful dude. So they get up Monday morning, whenever they get up, and Mike calls the house, Eddie Van Halen's number, and it goes to, straight to a answering machine, and he leaves a message. So he said, literally, we laid in our room all day because in the baseball season, like, you just don't get that many days to be late. You're either traveling or you're playing or both. And he's like, we had a rare day. We could have gone sightseeing in Hollywood, or we could have laid around and watched TV, and that's what we did. And also, there's the chance that Eddie Van Halen's going to call you back. So they get to like 8 o'clock at night. They've done nothing but order room service and watch TV. And the guy from the front desk calls, because remember, this is back in 1993, and he says, are you guys going to call down and get your messages? And Froworth is the one that's on the phone. And Froworth says, we don't have any messages, because that was back in the day, you remember, when there was a blinky light on the
red light
on the machine. Mm-hmm. Yep. He's like, our light's not blinking. And the guy says, well, then it must be broken because you have messages. So Froworth's like, all right, read them off. And he's like, all right. And this is also back in the day, even at the fancy schmancy hotels, where they took handwritten messages at the desk.
It's 1993.
Like,
sure.
He's like, all right, Todd, your wife called. You're supposed to call her tomorrow. And then he says, there's an Edward Von Eddie. Is that really Eddie Van Halen? And Froworth's like, yeah, that's him. What did he say? He says, so they're like, we probably could have hung out at Eddie Van Halen's house all day if our little blinky light on the answering or on the phone would have worked in the hotel.
God, that's crushing, man. So I remember. So I've told the story about meeting Alex and drinking with them in '86. I was 17 years old. That was at the Spectrum, and my mother's involvement in, like I told that story a couple weeks ago. But the story with your brother, and I'd love to talk to your brother about it, because Eddie was stoned, and his manager is a guy named Ed Leffler, and I remember him well. He was a wonderful guy. He pulled me up and talked golf and sports and like all that. I had a ponytail then. I had long hair back then. And I remember Eddie holding the baseball up, and I think he autographed the ball, or, it was like one of those kind of like in-kind things. And they gave us a bunch of swag. And I took the tank top that I have worn for 27 years. Like literally I have this Van Halen tank top. But he held the ball to your brother, and he's like, how do you take that little ball and like do what you do with it, This is right after the 93 All-Star.
I do remember.
Do you remember that? And your brother's like,
I remember that.
Dude, you're Eddie Van Halen. What do you mean you're asking me how I throw a baseball, But I tell that story because Eddie was so stoned that he was like holding the ball. He's like, how do you do that, man? How do you do that?
I do remember that now. I do remember. I remember too. I tell people, well, the joke I used to say was that I think Eddie smoked everything that he could light before he got in to meet with us. But I said, I know he hugged me because he hugged everybody in the room.
He could not have been nicer, right? Literally, right?
I'll tell you what, they were like, Sammy was cool. Michael Anthony was cool. Like they were not, we didn't get, rock starred at all. It was a very,
it was a hang.
You can picture bands where everyone wouldn't be like that. Some of them would and some of them wouldn't. They were great.
Yeah,
they really were.
It was good. Later in my life, about 10 years ago, my wife was still a blonde. I was with Julio Bermejo, one of my dearest friends in San Francisco who I've traveled the world with. And he's connected to the tequila industry, which Sammy obviously was a part of. We wound up in Napa Valley. Only time I've ever been in Napa Valley in my life. It reminded me of Sideways, bro, And, I'm not the biggest wine drinker, but I like wine. I like wine more now than 25 years ago. And by happenstance and a very strange circumstance, Sammy Hagar was 1 mile away from where we were. He called Julio. And the next thing I know, I'm drinking wine that I don't know what these bottles cost, but these were not $100 bottles of wine. This was like in a cellar at Coppola, drinking with Sammy and his best friend and their wives all afternoon. And I said to him, look, I'm only going to fanboy you with one question. I just want to talk about the song 5150. And if we could talk about that for a couple minutes, I'll leave you alone. He said, man, whenever you're ready, whenever you want. So, I had a Sammy experience later in life, like as a full adult that was not fan-based, and it was just 8 of us in a wine cellar drinking all day, and it was pretty memorable. So I've had a few Van Halen moments, but nothing like missing a golf blinking light to in the Anaheim Marriott back in '93.
No, and we've had this conversation. We could have this as a story for another time, but the Van Halen, Van Hagar arguments that, you and I have been, I'd say we are in the minority when we are very proudly state how good Van Hagar was. Oh. And I've never met another band like that where it's almost, there's this pocket of people where it's almost become like Republican and Democrat. If you like Van Hagar, you're doing a disservice to the original Van Halen, and for some reason, we're not allowed to love them both.
By the way, I shared last week a video, and it popped up as recommended, and I wound up watching it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was blown away. It's the 89 tour, okay? It's the OU812 tour from Tokyo. It says Pro Shot on it. I shared it back on. You can go through my Facebook. Go watch that and turn it up. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes of the show, but they're sober, really, really sober, and really, really good. I mean, like prime, better than anything, even close to anything I've ever. Have you seen the Van Hagar Dallas outdoor show?
No.
Man, there are some insane things on YouTube if you're and I've discovered this during the plague because I love music so much and I can't experience it. Those 2 concerts, both of them, if you're a Van Hagar fan at all, go watch them. But the one in Tokyo is really, really special. Like really pristine shot, audio's incredible. Sammy's singing his head off. They're harmonizing, hitting all the notes, perfect shape. Go watch that. It'll bring a tear to your eye, Moose.
But do you feel like when you tell people you love Van Hagar, that you have to then explain to people, no, I love Van Halen too. I love Dance the Night Away, and I love Running with the Devil, and
yes, all the above.
One or the other.
I even love Bozy Bozy Bop Diddy Bop. I like Yankee Rose. You know what I mean? I'll have a glazed donut. So, I'm okay with Dave, who's kind of Dave's sculpting now. Do you know about this?
No.
No, Google it. He did a CBS thing. He's doing sculpture now.
Unfortunately, I've seen videos of Dave singing lately, and he should sculpt.
I ain't got no body. Hey, Moose, appreciate you. The book is A Mile in Her Shoes. Go grab it on Amazon. Mark Mussina, the outspoken. You and your brother are sort of like Penn and Teller. Only one of you talks, but that's good. So at some point we'll get the other Moose on to, I don't know, tell stories about throwing baseballs with Eddie Van Halen. Take care of yourself and your family. All right. Good luck with your book and make a movie. All right.
Hey, thanks, man.
F the Cowboys. I had to get that in. All right, there he goes. Mark Mussina. Make sure you're ordering ice cream, everyone. I got my Taharka ice cream. Moose can't order because they don't deliver them on Toursville yet. Peanut butter cup, the Midflix and chills, and it all comes in the box of love. Awaken more than just your taste buds. Our friends at Taharka, they make the best ice cream in the world here locally. You can save $15.70 off the box of 8. Just $5 a piece, $40. It makes a perfect gift. Whatever you do, get the sweet potato. Sweet potato crunch. I'm Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking to old friends about Van Halen, Van Hagar, and Baltimore Positive.